Yeah, I'm Dr. Mark Scallon. I'm a dentist here in Orange City. People like to know where you came from and how you grew up. I grew up just outside of Iowa Falls on a farm. Went to Iowa State, which is where I met my wife, who grew up in Alton. And after Iowa State, went on to dental school at the University of Iowa. And been here, then moved after school to Orange City and been here for the last 9 years now. So I guess that's where I came from. So yeah, Tom invited me to talk about what I find amazing about teeth, which I'm in the profession, so I find everything amazing, I guess. But yeah, Tom alluded to it. I've done some public speaking about teeth before, but it's all been to preschoolers and kindergartners. So this age demographic is a little different. So I did maybe adjust my material a little bit from what I usually talk to them about. But yeah, I'd just like to start, I guess, with where teeth start and how they're formed, and it's pretty amazing to me that the teeth actually start forming, our baby teeth start forming 6 to 7 weeks after conception. So many women don't even know they're pregnant yet at that point, and the baby teeth are already starting to form, even though we don't get a lot of those baby teeth until we're 6 months to a year in age. And the permanent teeth don't follow too much further behind. It's about 10 weeks after conception that those start to form, and a lot of those teeth we don't get until we're 6 years old, all the way up to 12 years old, or wisdom teeth being teenage years. So pretty amazing to me that all that happens, and because of how early that all starts, there's a lot we don't know about how that process happens. Even with all of our research and time spent on that, it happens so early. I was going back through some of my dental school textbooks to try to nail down exactly how teeth are formed, and it's just way above my level, even to really understand how the cells happen, and the timing of it all, to be able to form the enamel on top of the dentin and cover the pulp and all that. It's super complex, and there's a lot of things that we still don't understand. The design of teeth is pretty spectacular. So those baby teeth that start to form, we get 10 baby teeth on top and 10 on the bottom that start to form, and then 16 top teeth and 16 bottom permanent teeth. Why we get 2 sets of teeth, another unknown. I think it's another just, God designed thing. I think my belief, at least, is when we're kids, we do a lot of learning how to walk, learning how to run, do a lot of falling, bumping our teeth, breaking our teeth, throwing things at our siblings, chewing on rocks, not knowing that's a bad idea. So that first set of teeth is kind of our trial run, I think, until we get things figured out. We get some more hand-eye coordination. We can brush those teeth a lot better. We don't have to rely on our parents as much to take care of our teeth. So then those baby teeth start to fall out about at 6 years of age and start to get those permanent teeth in. And that's another thing. We don't really know why, the timing, what causes teeth to erupt. I guess
we're just lucky, huh?
Another thing I was going to mention, going back to baby teeth, was as humans are a lot different than other animals, other mammals, and that even 6 months to a year and getting our baby teeth is a lot later. I think that's also by design, because we found out that humans really should be on a liquid diet for the first 6 months of life, and not having any teeth helps, keep you from trying solid foods, probably, because you would just choke. So that's something else that's amazing to me. And if you guys ever have any questions, you can raise your hand. Again, normally when I ask for questions from a kindergartner, I just get a story about how their big brother or big sister just lost a tooth recently, or that they've been to the dentist before. You can tell me those stories too, but Yeah, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and shout them out or raise your hand. Yeah, so I kind of talked about how teeth are formed. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this picture. I didn't get anything for a screen, but there's a couple different layers of teeth. So a lot of people think that teeth are like bones, and they're actually entirely different. There's an outer layer, which is the enamel, which is very hard, actually the hardest substance in our body. Underneath that is the dentin, the kind of yellow layer in this picture. And that's actually the living layer of our tooth. The enamel is just a conglomerate of minerals, calcium, phosphate, that is not alive after the tooth erupts. And then inside that, the enamel and the dentin protect the most important part of the tooth, which is the pulp, and that's where the nerve and blood vessels live that feed the tooth and keep that tooth alive. Yeah, so teeth aren't just a piece of bone that's sticking out through your gums. They're actually separate, and there's little ligaments that hold that tooth to the bone. Those ligaments also act like shock absorbers to your teeth. So when you bite, chew, clench, they have a little give to them, and so you don't just shatter your enamel off when you go to bite.
When enamel's gone,
it's gone.
It's gone. It doesn't come back.
So that's another thing that's different from bones. You break a bone, you put it in a cast, it grows back together, it heals, the bone reforms. It's usually just about as strong as it was before you broke it. But enamel is different. Once the tooth erupts, the cells that made the enamel, they die off, and so you don't get any more enamel after that point. Which, is quite a bit different than bone in that way. So then I wanted to talk about kind of the form of our teeth. We have different sizes and shapes. Our teeth are different sizes and shape. Our front teeth are the incisors, and we look at those, or you feel them with your tongue. They're very flat on the edges, narrow. And the point of those is so when you go to bite into something, that you can actually bite through it and tear a sandwich off, bite into an apple, a carrot. You would do that with your front teeth, as you guys know. If you think of like mice and rats, they have almost all incisors, and right up front, because that's how they eat, is like a scissors, is they're just cutting into things, and that's what our front teeth are for. So without those, you wouldn't be able to, bite into a sandwich, eat things like chicken wings or, Pizza Ranch chicken, that kind of thing.
What are the other ones for?
So then the other one, so moving back, then we have the next one back is the canines. If you think of a dog, they have the sharp, pointy canines. And in humans, we're not totally meat eaters. That's part of our teeth design is, we're herbivores eating both plants and meat. We have to have teeth that work for both purposes. So the canines are for tearing into that meat, getting it off the bone, or, in the case of dogs or lions, it's also for self-defense or protection. Whereas us humans, we don't use our teeth for self-defense. So we don't have big, long, canines like some other animals do. The next ones back are the premolars. Those are kind of a hybrid between a canine incisor and a molar. You start to get some broad chewing surface to those, but also has two pointy cusps that can help tear into food as well. But then the broad chewing surface also makes it so you can start to grind your teeth or grind your food down into smaller pieces so you can swallow and manage it that way. And then way in the back are the molars. Those are the teeth that are just made to just grind that food down. So the incisors have bit off that small piece of food, and now the molars are able to just grind that down into something that then your stomach will be able to digest easily. And the molars you think of, plant-eating animals around here, cows, horses. You see how they eat, and their jaws too, especially, just move like in a circle and just grind that food down so they can swallow it. So our teeth are designed for their purposes. They're not just there for for show and for smiling, which is important too, but they serve an actual purpose as well.
Wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
Is that different than your molars? What is
It's a wisdom tooth is another name for it is a third molar. That's kind of interesting. A lot of people don't have room for your wisdom teeth, and the belief is as our modern diet has shifted to more processed foods, your body's now realizing, well, we don't actually have to chew as many times. We don't probably need those teeth to eat the foods that we do. We're not eating just strictly nuts, berries, tough meat and stuff like that. We don't need another set of molars, and so a lot of people don't their jaw doesn't grow to make room, accommodate for them. Yeah.
How come they call them wisdom teeth?
I think it's because what I've been told is that they come in about the same time that you come of age, so 16 to 18 years old. So that's when you're. Yeah. That's what I've always heard. Yeah. Yes. That's when you're at your smartest. Yeah. Another thing that I think is cool about the design of our mouths and our jaw. So our muscles are what contract and make it so we can close and open our jaw. The molars are our strongest teeth that we can really chew and grind. We talked about that. But also our jaw is made like a nutcracker, so we can produce the most amount of force on those back teeth. If it were the other way around and we could only produce the most amount of force with our front teeth, we'd probably just break those teeth off. And we see that with people that end up losing their back teeth early, and they have to use their front teeth to chew with. They wear down very quickly. They're just not made to do all that work. So that kind of brings me to, I guess, losing teeth. People that have lost all of their teeth. A lot of times they'll joke with me, I wish I could lose all my teeth because then I would lose weight. What we've actually found is people that do lose all their teeth, they end up with a level of malnourishment, and most of them end up gaining weight. And the reason is you can't eat as many healthy foods. You'll choose to, drink more calories or eat more processed foods instead of, it's really hard to eat a salad when you don't have any teeth. I think it's just all connected, and that makes you, when you have teeth, you eat a healthier diet. Yeah.
How about some word about cavities?
Yeah. So I was going to get into that. So, one thing I was going to say is I don't know how I was going to go about this actually, but the modern American diet has been terrible for teeth. If we look back in the history of time, cavities were not a problem, and we see that in the amount of sugar that we take in. Sugar is what's going to cause cavities. The sugar feed the bacteria. The bacteria in our mouth need something to live off of, and sugar is their favorite source. So without any sugar, those bacteria can't live, and the bacteria would die off, and then can't cause cavities. With the sugar, they live, they multiply, they grow, they jump from tooth to tooth, and what they do is the bacteria as a byproduct then produce acid, and that acid puts little holes in the enamel. The enamel is made out of minerals, calcium phosphate, and that degrades with acid production, or under that acid attack. And so that's when you get a cavity, is those bacteria producing the acid, or if you drink acidic drinks like juice, pop, does the same thing, puts little holes in your teeth, and those bacteria can just get in further. And like we talked about earlier, Tom, that once the enamel is gone, it's gone, and there's no bringing it back. Then that next layer of the tooth, the dentin, is very soft and wears away very quickly. Cavities are a lot like an anthill. So if you think of the top of an anthill, it's just a little hole on top. Think of that as your enamel. That acid, the bacteria and acid make a little hole on the top, And once they can tunnel through there, then they get to that next layer, and it's like a balloon of decay underneath there. It can eat through that much quicker than it can the enamel. So, so when researchers have actually looked, they went to, what is the prevalence of cavities across the world? They assumed that third world countries with poorer diets, they would find that they would have much higher level of cavities and decay, mostly because of their lack of education and access to dental care. But they went to countries like Ethiopia, Kenya, places like that, and they were shocked when they found that almost none of the people in these rural areas had decay. They'd never seen a dentist. They had all of their teeth and no cavities. And the main reason is they're eating a very plain, boring diet. They don't have access to pop, Coke. They're not eating candy bars. They're just eating, I don't know what they exactly eat in Ethiopia, but just plain grains, fruits, nuts, things like that, which I think is interesting. Then they went to another similar third world country like the Dominican Republic. You would think, well, maybe that would be the same way. They're eating a very basic diet. But what had happened at that time in those countries was Coca-Cola had gotten going, and Coca-Cola had figured out that they could get pop to these people easier than they could get clean drinking water. So they would actually, instead of going to find clean drinking water, they could just grab a can of pop and drink that instead, and the cavity rates were through the roof. So
drinking sugarless pop better?
it is better, yeah. Diet pops are better for your teeth than regular because of that reason. Pop is a double whammy on your teeth because the regular pop has sugar, plus it's highly acidic. If you've ever tried to clean the terminals on like a car battery, sometimes they'll tell you to get the rust off is to pour some Coke or Pepsi on it, because that can help. Actually, it's so acidic it'll clean that right off for you.
So you should choose beer over pop?
Yeah, at least for your teeth, yeah. Red wine is also acidic, so be careful with that. Yeah.
Water's probably best.
Water is best. Yeah, it's a very neutral pH, and water is very similar to our saliva. And Tom's actually was talking about this earlier. You kind of wonder what's the point of saliva. It maybe just gets in my way, makes me talk funny sometimes, makes me spit in my neighbor's face. But what saliva is doing is washing our teeth through the day, through the night. We've seen with people that have trouble with saliva production, either through side effects of medications or radiation where they don't have function of salivary glands. So they get a very dry mouth. They don't have that natural cleansing process on their teeth. And then that bacteria don't get washed off your teeth, and you start getting a lot of cavities. So
You said bacteria, so would it not be well for us then to just always, every half hour, sloshing our mouth with Listerine or something just to keep the cavities out of there?
Yeah, that's the point of mouthwash, is to kill those bacteria that are in our mouth. And I guess if you could do something like that, that would be helpful. And that point makes me think of, if you're drinking like sugary drinks like a pop, you think of a Mountain Dew, bad for your teeth, but it's actually much better for your teeth to chug it, to drink it all at once, than to be one that sits at your computer and sips it all day, because then that sugar and acid are just constantly hitting your teeth all day long. Whereas if you drink it all at once, then your saliva can naturally wash it off and then restore your mouth pH to a normal level. Yeah.
Whitening strips, are
Yeah.
they hard on your enamel over time?
What's the question?
The question was, are whitening strips hard on your teeth if you use them over time? They're not. Yeah, that's kind of a misnomer about whitening strips. They don't harm your enamel at all. Yeah. the way the whitening strips work is they actually go through the enamel. The enamel is actually, in our teeth, is colorless. It's see-through. It's a lot like glass. What makes our teeth give that yellow color is the dentin, the next layer under. And so with the way the whitening strips is, it's hydrogen peroxide gets in there, through the enamel, into the dentin, and then bleaches that dentin and makes it whiter. So it actually has no effect on the enamel, the outer layer at all. Yeah.
What about coffee?
Coffee, yeah. So the coffee, anything that's dark liquid, it stains the same way. It goes through the enamel into that dentin, and then picks up the dentin picks up that stain. So yeah. So anything dark liquid, red wines, coffee, dark colas, those all stain teeth.
What does flossing do? I talked to you
Yeah.
about that. And
So what the point of flossing is to disturb that bacteria. Those bacteria have like attachments, almost like suction cups to your teeth, and so they cling onto your teeth and then can cause cavities that way. Flossing is for between the teeth where your toothbrush can't reach. There's a lot of surfaces where your toothbrush can't get into. And clean that bacteria off, and so that's the point of floss.
just to disturb their suction.
Right, to break them off, to disturb them, and when they're not attached anymore, they lose their home, and so then you have a drink of water or whatever, and you swallow the bacteria, and your stomach acid kills them from there. So.
What if you use a lot of creamer in your coffee? That would make it lighter.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes. The question was, if you use a lot of creamer in your coffee, would that make it lighter? Yes. It does. So it's less dark that way. The other thing you can do is, and sometimes my wife does this, I don't know how she does it, is she drinks it through a straw, because then that gets it past at least your front teeth, which is what you see when you smile, and so it just goes right down the hatch that way.
So water pick as good as flossing?
Not quite as good. The way I like to think of it is a water pick is like when you go to wash your car and you just take the power washer to it and wash your car. That's a water pick. The flossing is actually taking that scrub and towel and actually scrubbing your car, and that's what floss does. Is really scrubs it.
You brush?
It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. As me as a dentist, I'm just happy if anybody flosses. I think it's 1 in 10 people actually flosses regularly. So whatever works for you. And it doesn't even have to be around the time that you brush. I've got a friend that keeps a piece of floss attached to their TV remote. Not that they use that piece of floss, but they see the piece of floss and it's like, oh, I should, while I'm sitting here watching TV, I could floss, during the commercials or something.
You can induce a lot of guilt. I mean, just the one question.
Yeah.
Have you been flossing?
Yeah, yes, yeah. And don't lie to your dentist. They can tell whether you've been flossing or not, or been brushing or not. Yeah.
What is tartar?
Tartar, yeah. So tartar is a buildup of minerals that attaches to your teeth. So our saliva is not just plain water. It's water mixed with minerals that come out of our saliva ducts. And so what tartar is those minerals from our saliva that when the saliva dries, it deposits those minerals and hardens on our teeth. And so that's a different problem that I didn't talk about is so that tartar forms on your teeth, and there's a different kind of bacteria in that tartar that doesn't cause cavities. It doesn't eat away at the tooth, but what it does is it eats away at the bone that holds our teeth in place. So that's why we have people regularly come in to get their teeth cleaned, is get that tartar cleaned off of there, not to keep them from getting cavities, but to keep that that bacteria from eating the bone away. So we'll see that. So in like my Ethiopia example, they didn't have any cavities, but they had severe periodontal disease because they had never used a toothbrush, they'd never seen a dentist, they had a ton of that tartar buildup, and what happens then is over time, it's a very slow process, much slower than the process that causes cavities. It eats that bone away, teeth start to get loose, and in places where they don't have access to the dentist, the teeth will actually just fall out like a baby tooth.
And no amount of brushing really takes care of the tartar.
Right. Yeah. Once that tartar is hardened and formed on there, the only way it can come off is by actually scraping it off of there. It mineralizes almost to the tooth.
Is there ways to
So is
minimize
tartar
Yeah.
the same as calcium?
There's calcium in the tartar, and then you had a question
it?
of
Is there ways to minimize it?
ways to minimize the tartar.
A little bit?
Yeah. So ways to minimize it would be just mostly brushing in the different areas. The main spot where it likes to build up is behind the backs of your bottom front teeth, and that's because one of your main salivary ducts is right underneath your tongue, almost the tip of your tongue, right underneath there. And unfortunately, that's an extremely difficult spot to be able to brush because you have to stick your toothbrush almost up to your nose, hit yourself in the nose with it to be able to get the right angle to clean that off. So, we mentioned water pick. That's a good way to clean that, keep that tartar from building up. Electric toothbrushes are another one, just because they do all the scrubbing for you. You don't have to actually move it in small circles on your own. You just have to touch that electric toothbrush in the right spot, and it'll take care of it. Yeah.
Fluoride
Yeah.
and bottled water and
Yeah.
tap water.
Yeah.
What's the pros and cons and all that kind
Yep.
of stuff?
So, we mentioned the enamel doesn't regrow, but if you have some acid that attacks the enamel, it'll demineralize. But if you can get some minerals back to that enamel before it just breaks off, you can remineralize it and re-strengthen it. And fluoride is one of those minerals that actually, if you can get next to the enamel, it will remineralize and make it stronger again. So that's why we put it into our tap water. Orange City puts it in the tap water. Sioux Center, it's naturally in the tap water. They don't actually add any to it. So there's some towns like that. So fluoride is a natural mineral that helps remineralize that enamel and strengthen it back up so you don't get cavities. So question about bottled water,
Yeah,
it doesn't have fluoride in it most of the
So
time.
your reverse osmosis takes the fluoride out? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying? Or some
Yep.
of those filters too?
Yep. So reverse osmosis is the only filter, or distilling it will take the fluoride out of the water. It takes everything out of the water except for just plain water. The Brita filters, charcoal filters, those still allow the fluoride to come through. So most bottled water, they want that to be as clean as possible. It's either run through, it's either distilled or reverse osmosis. Most bottled water don't have fluoride in it. So that's one other thing that you would think the U.S., as we get smarter, wealthier, wiser, we'd see less cavities. We're actually on a trend of seeing more and more cavities as young kids, and I think part of it is there's more and more bottled water usage compared to drinking out of the hose that some people.
Was there a time when fluoride was banned? Because I always thought there was the time that they were taking it out of stuff for a while.
Question, but
Yeah, so the question was there ever a time that fluoride was banned? I don't think it's ever been banned. There's been some communities that have taken it out of the water. Usually it's smaller rural communities that it costs money to put the fluoride in, and I think it's a cost savings, at least to the city, not to the community at large, because they see a spike in cavities when that happens. I don't think fluoride was really widely put into the water until the 50s or 60s, 1950s or 60s, so it's still relatively newer, but once that was introduced, anybody that grew up in the 1930s, 40s, that wasn't available, and that's why a number of those people ended up losing their teeth, is they didn't have that natural protection in the drinking water.
Can you get too much fluoride? I've seen teeth that are marbleized, or
Yep.
will that go away, or will that be permanent?
Yeah, so there's a question if you can get too much fluoride, and you can. It's very difficult to get too much fluoride. The amount that's in the drinking water is very minimal. The amount that's in your toothpaste is you would have to actually eat your toothpaste on like a daily basis. So that's why they tell you to spit out your toothpaste. And most of that has to happen. You'd have to get too much fluoride. You'd have to do that at a very young age, where that enamel is still forming. And so for a lot of our teeth, that's like 1-2 years of age that you could get too much fluoride.
So since we all have teeth, one way or the other here, what's your parting word to us?
I don't know if I have any great parting wisdom. I just appreciate you guys all coming. Most people find teeth, they don't like coming to the dentist, so why would they ever come listen to a dentist when they don't have to? So I appreciate you not just making me talk to Tom the whole time. Thanks for listening.
So